Have you ever wondered what hypnosis might be and what it can do for you? You've come to the right place. Welcome to Hypnosis-Everywhere with your host, Inez Simpson. This is the show that talks to everyone, from the experienced practitioner to the cautiously curious, and yes, even the skeptics. Now, here's Inez Simpson.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Hypnosis Everywhere. And I'm here, and I'm Inez Simpson. Oh, what is my name? Simpson.
Yeah,
I'll try that
she's
again.
in Ireland, and she's been a little bit of the Guinness.
No, I haven't yet. And with me is Martin Gover, as usual, being his usual self. And luckily today, I am here in Ireland, as you can tell by the jokes about the Guinness. And I am doing the show live from Dublin and interviewing a friend of mine, Nick Ebdon, who is actually in London. So we're sort of UK-based today, and it's going to be great. So welcome to the show, Nick, and it's really nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's an absolute pleasure.
And this island is not in the UK.
Well, I know. No, that's
yeah.
right. We're in the EU part. Sorry. Well, that was a really bad one, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm so sorry to my Irish friends. I know. We'll be in Belfast next week. I'm getting confused. Sorry. All right. All the political correctness is now ruined.
Back to hypnosis.
Back to hypnosis now, which I do know something about. So, Nick, I'd like to, my guests are sort of 90% regular people and the rest are hypnotists.
The guests are pretty much normal people. Yeah. The listeners are a little bit different.
Maybe I did have the Guinness. I'm not sure. Anyway, so would you really tell our listeners how you got to hypnosis and what you were doing before, blah, whatever you want to do, about a bio about yourself, and tell us all about how you feel about hypnosis.
Okay, so we'll start at the beginning. My first experience, so my background is from an investment banking background. My first experience with hypnosis was, probably around the turn of the century, around 2000. It sounds so wrong when you say it like that. I know I look old, but I'm not that old.
I think I might be.
Yeah, I'm not saying anything. We've already offended the Irish. I'm not going to say anymore. So yeah, I was a trader on a metals desk for a big US investment bank, Morgan Stanley, and I was suffering from insomnia. I just had my first daughter as well, so that was contributing to the insomnia. And I at the time there wasn't very much a sort of internal help at the bank to deal with it. So I went and looked for someone who was a NLP and hypnotherapist, NLP master practitioner, as she advertised herself, Jill Mitchell, if you're listening. And she helped. She gave me my first experience with hypnosis and NLP, and in I think it was just 2 sessions. She helped me control my problem with sleeping and start getting a good night's sleep again. That and what we'll go on to. I also did some practical things as well and looked for some practical solutions then. So that was that. I was working as a trader quite successfully, if I don't mind saying so myself. In 2009. I sort of had enough of it at the time. Morgan Stanley graciously made me redundant. I can't go into too many details because they then re-employed me several months later. But by the time I'd come back, I was suffering from stress, and that sort of culminated in me having a bit of an embarrassing episode in a dealing room of 250 odd people. Much to the amusement of my enemies in that dealing room. And I was signed off work for 8 weeks. I had cognitive therapy, hypnotherapy, and sort of pulled myself through it. But I was really sort of fascinated then. That sort of piqued my interest in not just self-help and self-development, but the possibility of helping others. When I went back after my leave of absence, I I was already sort of researching how I could explore it more. I found a lot of pleasure helping a few other people. It's amazing that when one of the bigger personalities in the dealer room suffers with stress and has to deal with it publicly, how many other people then come out of the woodwork that are also dealing with stress. So I had a sort of a bit of another role helping other people in a similar predicament as me. And the more I sort of got interested, the more I sort of fell out of love with the corporate world. Started studying first cognitive behavioural therapy, then hypnotherapy, and then sort of continued to add on and develop NLP and such like. Then I, after working with clients for a few years, then trained as an instructor for the NGH and Omni and two of the bigger schools out there. But in that time, sort of made a lot of mistakes, as we've discussed in the past, in trying to get the business working for what was my obvious niche market at the time, which was people in the city and people in a similar position that I found myself in a few years previously. So and that is kind of what I do now. I work just on a referral basis, coaching and using hypnotherapy in that coaching and mentoring. People in traders, financial traders, brokers, salespeople at banks, senior management, executives, and so on and so forth.
Extremely high stress jobs, right?
Yeah, incredibly. I like to give them a bit of perspective with their stress as well. I don't pull any punches. That there are more stressful things in the world than losing other people's money. And just seeing your bonus slashed to 6 figures instead of a potential 7. But I'm joking, but that is an important part of what I do. It is making sure that they have a bit of personal perspective, because in a competitive environment like the city, it's very hard to forget that you're
just for
bubble.
The listeners who are especially Americans or whatever that aren't from anywhere else at all, they don't know what you mean by the city, and that's really a sort of a 1 mile or 1 kilometer, right? 1 mile.
In London they call it the square mile.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put any Americans' noses out of joint, but it's still the financial capital of the world.
Now we're getting, we're zapping people today.
Yeah, but I can say that because I used to pop over to Wall Street and Times Square with Morgan Stanley quite a lot. And actually New Yorkers are just like Londoners, just fractionally happier. It's a square mile, and obviously there's a lot of financial institutions, and I deal with people from the Lloyd's Insurance, which is obviously the global centre of the insurance market as well. And for my American listeners, I'll even slip into a bit of American language. I used to trade copper and aluminum. Which for English people is aluminium, but yeah. So
yes, we could get into that, couldn't we?
As I say, yeah. We've done the Irish, we've done the Americans,
and nobody worries about the Canadians. So.
No.
They'll apologise.
Yeah, we'll just say we're sorry anyway, just like I always do.
Exactly. So I mean, virtually all my business now, I do consulting work as well. That sort of has been a sort of byproduct of the coaching and mentoring. But I mean, predominantly my coaching and therapeutic clients all come from the Square Mile or Canary Wharf, which is where I used to be based, and a lot of the big financial institutions are based. And which we will get onto, where the UK Hypnosis Convention was based up until last year.
And we'll get into that.
Mm-hmm.
So continuing, so now we know what the city is, and we know how high stress it was, and how, so now you did tell me this, I'm sure, that you now work only by referral.
Yeah, I've been like that for quite a while. When I've been interviewed by other people in the past, I think it's always best to be honest. And I've got to be honest, I am an absolute rubbish marketer. And I also have been in a privileged position where, obviously, because of my past, because of professional successes I've had in the past, I had a lot more time to develop a business and make mistakes and so on and so forth. So now it is all just referral. It doesn't mean that I don't deal with the whole range of issues, although even that I am now a bit more selective and I will refer on to other people. But the bulk of my business is all referral now, and I like it that way. I've got to the point now where I can pick and choose who I work with and how I work with them as well, which is a bit of a luxury, and it's only cost me thousands of pounds getting it wrong over the years. So I'm enjoying it now.
No, that's good. So, but what I was really, I think, getting at that this now is working with the financial guys who have all this stress. You have developed a great way of leading them through and helping them, and that's pretty astounding. That the city, or as like you say, New York would be the same, where Wall Street is. That very high stress, that thing that you give them some way to live their life in a much easier way.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of educating them. You know, I've got a very particular view on what hypnosis is and what hypnosis isn't. As I mentioned before, I've trained others in the more typical approaches to hypnosis, which the listeners will probably have a good idea of what, especially obviously after listening to you and your guests, what a typical hypnosis session may be in their own head. And people in the city have their own ideas too. And unfortunately, a lot of these sort of very in-demand sort of people in the city haven't got the time or inclination to sit through how they perceive one to be.
So, Nick, I think we've got a few seconds left in this first segment, how fast that goes. And We'll just have to continue that on the way back. So we'll see you on the other side.
All right, you're clear.
Cool.
Wow, that went quick.
It's going to go quick.
It goes so quick, it's ridiculous.
But maybe discuss what your perception of hypnosis is.
Yeah.
And that's what he's just starting on. So,
you're talking about the traders are in hypnosis all the time. People put themselves in hypnosis all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
That's good.
Awesome. Yeah. So now this is like 2 minutes, and it seems like it's over. No, I don't want to go to Facebook Live. I want you to edit this rubbish out, and then we'll just put it out there like really
just have Nick's side up.
Wow. Do you know what? If it goes straight to adverts on the edit, I'll know what you mean by rubbish. Wow. She takes no prisoners. That is. Get rid of the Nick fella. Wow.
By the way, am I still speaking at the convention?
Beryl, you've got another slot again.
Good old Beryl.
Good old Beryl. You can do the Simpson protocol, right, Beryl? You're up.
She can.
She's probably good for sure. She's been around a lot when I teach it, so I guess she probably could.
She stepped in for Cheryl last year and did the sleep talk. Yeah.
Well, she does sleep talk. Yeah, I mean, the woman has how many things that she does? She's a crackerjack.
She is, yeah. She doesn't stop.
And then on the opposite side, there's your
less than 30 seconds, and we're back.
Okay.
All right, bringing some sound back to your ears.
Find out all about that at simpsonprotocol.com. Talk soon.
You're listening to Hypnosis-Everywhere, the Simpson Protocol. To reach the show today, please call into 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to Inez, that's INES, at InezSimpson.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Well, welcome back to Hypnosis Everywhere, and we're going to get right into it with Nick. And Nick was just going to start talking about how he perceives hypnosis and what he likes about it, right? So we'll just keep going, Nick, from here.
Yeah, so as I was saying, I was teaching informal hypnosis, and when I was running clinics and offices in like the London suburbs and local to where I am now, I could do a typical hypnosis session. But what I found really quickly was that proportionately, people in the city and people in certain sort of occupations that I was working with weren't as open to the idea of typically how they perceived hypnosis to be, and also participating. Plus, as well, in the city as well, that they were quite time sensitive as well. The sort of hypnosis I was doing at the time could potentially have been open-ended. But that aside, what I did notice was, and what I learned to spot very quickly was, and understand hypnosis to be, any time when there is a heightened level of suggestibility. And taking that a step further, that level of suggestibility for a trader, more often than not, will be not what others are saying around them, but what they're actually saying to themselves. And then taking that a step further, you know, if you're considering hypnosis as a typical model of bypassing a critical faculty to get into that state of heightened suggestibility, they're being bombarded with so much information simultaneously in real time, and often very real time, and there's so many unknowns already in a trader's day. You know, they can have as thorough a plan and exit strategy and take profit strategy or whatever their trading style is, but things happen that they've not taken any consideration for, and what happens then is, in that moment of, we don't know how to respond here, generally how they'll talk to themselves in that time is as good as any powerful hypnotic suggestion that you'll experience in a traditional sense. And then what happens is, as well, because of the markets and the speed of the financial markets, they don't have time to process stuff cognitively. They don't have the pattern potentially in a new situation to map to anything constructively, unconsciously or non-consciously. So they then create probably a more damaging self-suggestion as well. And when I work with them, I realised that I didn't have to have a typical state of hypnosis, for want of a better expression, because they were providing all the states and levels of suggestibility that I needed to work with. So what I will do is I will run through scenarios with them, and I'll listen carefully to their language, and I'll listen and I'll observe their shifts in emotion as well when they're taking me through a particular scenario that might have caused them distress. And the problem with traders, as in anyone as well, but I do find it sort of magnified, is that often the presenting problem isn't the problem with them as well. So not only are they giving themselves negative suggestions about the particular instance that day that had triggered their stress or their anxiety or a panic attack or their anger or what have you, there's going to be so many different facets in their life just overlapping that you have to unpick. I'm privileged, obviously, because of my previous experience of being able to empathise with some of them in certain situations, being able to recognise what I would call the errors of thinking from our cognitive behavioural therapists would describe as the errors of thinking when they happen, and they're either a precursor to more damaging suggestions, but it's then making a plan of using a combination of suggesting things to them at that time, getting them to use their imagination. Traders are actually as analytical as traders are perceived to be. Depending on what style of trading they use to make money, some of them are actually got incredible imaginations. I find anyone that's actually got themselves in a bit of bother anyway has used their imagination well, if not unhelpfully.
Of course, yeah.
But you know, a trader, some of them will be very analytical. Some of them will literally be program driven. Some of them can be incredibly disciplined, and that mitigates some of the need for creative thinking. But a lot of traders as well, especially traders that work for themselves who don't work to a system, they've got to be able to see into the future. They've got to be able to analyse the past to come up with creative strategies. So they make great subjects to use perhaps more typical hypnotic approaches with. But generally, on the whole, all my stuff is done being a little bit provocative, maybe pushing a few buttons with them conversationally to see how they react in certain situations, and then listening to that language, not just what they say, but how they say it as well. Because then we can sort of deconstruct what they're saying, and then it might take a few practical strategies of doing this as well. I always say that, you know, the first thing a trader will say is, I can't leave the desk, and I say, well, you have to. You know, if you can't, you must. Sorry, that was really, I nicked that off of Tony Robbins. I quite liked it. Or he nicked it off of me. I don't know. It was one of the two. But they have to, because they're stuck and they're just in this immersive experience of self-hypnosis. And they're telling themselves the same things. They often would have been in this situation time and time again, and they've never resolved properly how to deal with it. Now, I'm talking in a trading technical sense. The fact of the matter is, a lot of what traders come to see me about will be about their personal lives, about handling stress. And the problem that people, and this will be the same in Wall Street, this will be the same in Silicon Valley, it will be the same in the city. High achievers, high earners don't feel that they can go and turn around to someone and say, do you know what, I'm feeling really depressed. And I can totally relate to that. You know, when I was executive director at Morgan Stanley, turning around to my mate who was stacking pallets at Safeways and telling him, oh, I just can't deal with shit. He'd turn around and go, you have got no problems at all. But obviously everything's relative. The reason the city is a success is because people are competing at an incredibly high level. Mm-hmm. And so life is relative for them. But then I do like to also get them to using their imaginations to put themselves in scenarios where they have to have a bit of perspective about their life as well. And again, I'm always happy to use strategies. I'll send them out and get them to do something nice, get them to do a bit of charity work, just to get over themselves a bit and get out their egos out of the way. But yeah, but a lot of the problems will be relationship problems. You have to look at the environment that they're working in. Some of these guys are working 80 hours a week, and when they get home, they're on their phones or watching the markets or on the phone, taking out clients 3 nights a week. I remember the wife used to love that. Me coming in drunk every night, Wednesday through to Friday. It was her favourite time of the week for sure. But that puts strains on relationships. Mm-hmm. And bear in mind as well, these guys are then processing the rights and wrongs generally badly because they're back at the desk in that heightened state of suggestibility again. And they got the guy next door saying, I'll tell the missus to bugger off, she's in the wrong, buy her a Gucci handbag, buy her this, buy her that. And all their solutions generally tend to be stupid and unproductive. So it's, you and I have spoken before about doing very short sessions, and mm-hmm. It seems to be the trend now. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you've had any quick fire merchants on, but when you've got a guy there whose life is so complex, so layered, just the things he's saying to himself need perhaps 1 or 2 sessions to unpick and understand. The solutions to these problems can go over many weeks. And plus, as well, they've got egos. They're not going to tell you the truth straight away. You've got some big titan of industry coming in. He's going to lie. He's going to lie at his backside. You might find out in the 2nd or 3rd week that he's actually there because he's got a cocaine problem and his trading's fine. It takes a while to listen, to understand, and then use their own methods of giving themselves these dangerous self-suggestions more productively.
Yeah. It's pretty a natural thing to do is people will do, even on my level where I'm not working with those types of people, they'll still say, they'll phone in and they'll say, well, I have this or that. And it's just I chew my nails or something. But what they're really coming in for is a much more bigger issue usually, but they don't want to talk about that till they're, sound you out. And then, like you say, you have to dig sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, to give you an example, a broker came in and he actually came in that he said it was actually about relationship issues. They very rarely actually lead with that. But I mean, again, this is the beauty of having referrals. You tend to get to the honest things a bit quicker.
Faster. Mm-hmm.
But this guy came in and making his wife out to be a complete dragon. And she was being unreasonable, and I think he was really just looking for a way to get out of dealing with the real problem, which was that he had a tax bill he hadn't paid in 2 years. He promised this big dingy dangly white wedding that she was second in the queue after Her Majesty's Treasury and Customs and whatever, and it's getting that sort of stuff out of him, and then I've got to be honest, that was a lovely one. It was a really clean, imagine, what do you see? And he just saw this big wall in front of him. I imagine breaking that wall down, what's the other side, and all the answers. And this was this was one of those beautiful ones where it was 55 minutes getting to the root of it and 5 minutes fixing it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
But yeah, some of them they can stretch the fibs on for weeks. But again, that's the beauty of having a background. I can call people on stuff that other people perhaps wouldn't be comfortable.
Well, I think that's true, and whatever we've done before will be added into who our clients are attracted to us for that, right?
Yeah. And I had to be rubbish for a long time before they was attracted to me. Problems out.
Oh, we're down to 30 seconds again. So can you believe it? Anyway, we have a couple more segments, luckily, and we're just going to go to break, and we'll see you on the other side.
All right, you're clear.
Very good.
That's good.
I'm not talking too fast, am I?
No, doing good. I was just going to say, I had Natalie Fissé on, who's French-Canadian, and she's an astounding doctor who works with birthing with hypnosis in Montreal. So in the hospital, and she's going on so fast through this hour program, and she's even going through the breaks. I'm having to stop her. I'm saying, we're not recording. But if you go back to there's so much information in the show, but you have to listen to it a couple times because it's so fast.
Yeah, generally people just listen to me the once.
Yeah, typically, if that.
Yeah, halfway through they just wander out.
So, do you want to go to the convention now?
Yeah, well, let's lead into anything else you want to finish on that, and then we'll go into the convention stuff.
No. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you know what? I mean, we can talk about this in the segment, but one of the motivations for doing the forum was that I think, for doing the convention was the forums translate so badly.
Yes,
right.
Very much.
The written word, I think, translates badly anyway.
Texting is terrible.
I mean, I read, if I like a book that I read it twice because I'm sure I'll read it in a different way the second time. When you're in the heat of an argument, on Facebook. And you know, and the worst thing is when you become the guy who sorts out the convention, you also become the unelected referee of every argument that happens on Facebook.
Yes.
And I'm completely fickle. I agree with everyone when they message me privately.
You know, I can see so many things from every side of the fence. So a lot of times I don't know where I stand. So that's okay. That's me.
But also that's because you're comfortable in what you're doing. I think half the bickering is people just actually not being comfortable in their own skin or feeling like they got something to prove or trying to put their stamp.
And the other aspect.
All right, coming back right now, guys.
Okay.
Is talked about. It's a great way for people who are interested in hypnosis to learn. The UK one has got a diversity.
You're listening to Hypnosis Everywhere, the Simpson Protocol. To reach the show today, please call into 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to Inez, that's INES, at InezSimpson.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Well, welcome back. And we've been having a great time talking to Nick. And I'm just going to ask him to sort of talk about anything else he wants to talk about. But I really want to lead into the UK convention. So first, go ahead, Nick. And you know, now you just got to think, oh, what else do I want to say about anything else?
I hate it when Inez does this. I mean, I'm quite happy to go talk about the convention and link it to something that I was talking about before, which is that I've got my own very particular views on certain approaches, and as we've discussed before, so lots of people in our profession have very strong views about certain approaches. And for the listeners who don't particularly understand, you know, I think that there isn't a therapy field like hypnosis that is so broad, that is so generic, that can mean so many different things. I mean, let's put it this way: no one even has a clear, definitive description or what of how or what hypnosis is or how it works.
Yep.
So you can. That's obviously that's a beautiful recipe for having loads of arguments on a regular basis. And I've got particular views of certain approaches or people who use the term hypnosis with very little regard to what it is or how it works. And I think we've seen a sort of a real surge in people trying to package hypnosis differently. There's so many different varieties and so many different approaches and techniques and what have you, that for people who are so for the average Joe on the street, or even the people that I'm seeing, who do you go to when you want to actually come down to resolving an issue? Mm-hmm. And then secondary, the people who learn hypnosis and then want to further their own careers or refine their own way of doing therapy or change work, who are the people to go and learn from? Mm-hmm. And so, you know, you mentioned the convention, and one of my I would say gripes with the profession is that there are people who aren't seeing enough clients and real people out there to know how to work with the people in front of them to get a result. You know, you and I come at hypnosis from a totally different angle, mm-hmm. But as we've discussed in the past, we've learned from different respected schools of thought. Some of the stuff we've learned, we've left behind, and some of the stuff as you have done, you've refined to a very specific protocol and integrated it with other things and what have you. But there's lots of other people who now, especially with the emergence of the internet and social media, are literally just out to sell the fastest and noisiest and razzmatazziest approach. And what gets left behind is the fact that the people who are actually buying this on the end are people who want to take that and actually make someone's life better or change that. So one of the the limitations of social media when it comes to the hypnosis profession, hypnotherapy profession, more than others, is because there's so many diverse opinions and beliefs and attitudes towards it, that it generally turns into sometimes a prickly environment to be discussing it and trying to bring the profession forward. I'm sure you and I can think of dozens and dozens of anecdotes each where you've found yourself in a conversation and tried to get out of it, and then your ego pulls you back. I'll go, but I'll just have a passing shot before I go. So when I first did the convention, I wanted to put on an event where some of these strongly conflicting views are a bit more exposed and a bit more raw and a bit out in the open to be judged more as either good or bad or shouldn't be speaking, but also as well to provide experienced hypnotherapists, newly trained hypnotherapists, people doing the hypnotherapy training or people thinking of doing hypnotherapy training to come and really have a broad cross-section of all these styles.
Do you have are you open to just regular people attending a hypnosis convention or not?
You mean normal people that aren't hypnotists? Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think, well, I'll give you an example. So I employ a certain amount of people. I have a number of volunteers for the hypnosis community, but I also employ what I would call lay people who have no training, and they find it fascinating to the point that they offer to come back and help the following year for free. and you know what? I say yes, but. Yes. But it's actually the sort of thing, and the reason why the UK Hypnosis Convention is the place to do it is that there is no organisational affiliation. I actually ditched any training aspirations I had. One, because I had personal incongruencies with what I was teaching, but also I wanted it to be a totally clean event where people who had no previous ideas of what hypnosis was could come and not be steered in any particular direction. And I think that's really important. And I think as a profession as a whole, there needs to be that common ground established, because I could imagine some of these people who have not experienced hypnosis or experience it for the first time, poke their head into some of these groups and think, Christ, I'm going to a cognitive therapist.
Well, you know, it's a little bit scary when you're maybe a new hypnotist and you get on a forum and, and you go, what do I do now? What do I say? And out you go, because you're just going to run.
Yeah. And do you know what? There's some people that probably don't translate very well on the written forums.
That's a part of a problem, is that text is definitely not the best way to communicate.
Yeah, I mean, I've sent a few humdingers in my time, and oh, wow, how do I delete that? And then go back and reword it. But when you meet these people in the flesh, some of them are actually some of the most kindest and generous people with their time. And there's also a difference between seeing something explained in writing and seeing something demonstrated.
Yes.
I mean, for instance, the stuff you do is very demonstration driven.
Yeah.
People want to see it. They want to see the reaction from the person you've got sat in the chair, you know. And that's where you get the buy-in. That's where people know that you're a credible instructor, that you're someone that someone can learn something from. And it's great. And you know what? It's brilliant, because over the last 2 years, we've had some big egos walk in and some heavily shrunk and bruised egos walking out. And on the flip side, I've given enough platform to the newer trainers and the people like just emerging in the field. And some of them have been like a revelation. That people have been like, these are fantastic. You know, they really know their stuff. And so that's exciting to always have that balance.
And for instance, Melissa Tiers, who's going to be the keynote this year, I mean, we've known each other for years, and we're very different in our approaches, and we both have the highest respect for each other.
Yeah.
You know, and it's nice if we can get to those sort of things. And that's why on this program, I have people on from every facet. And I say all hypnosis is good. It's just the one that's good for me to use is mine. You know, like, that's it.
And people are so different anyway. My approach, I'm sure some I would turn people's hair white if they were in an office with me, whereas your approach would be absolutely perfect for what they want.
Yeah.
You know, that healing aspect and that. I know people like yourself do it a lot better than I do.
Well, I definitely wouldn't be so good at doing what you do. And that's why we're all unique. And that's why I say, you know, get out there and do your research, ask your hypnotist questions and see if you have the rapport and the right blend, and then go for it. Yeah. So.
Absolutely. Do you know what? A good hypnotist, a good hypnotherapist should be able to answer in such a honest and direct way, including their own limitations. I mean, one of the best things I did was start referring away work I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you become a really bad advert for yourself and the profession. I
agree. I think that's great. So ultimately, when you do the convention, what I respected so much was what you took this and you did exactly that. The same sort of thing that I'm doing with the program is trying to show all aspects of hypnosis and all aspects are being valid. And that is what I respected in you so much. And that you sort of get to be the middleman, which isn't always nice for you, I would think. But you get to be the person keeping the peace.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, being a middleman's good, because when it goes right, you take all the credit. And when it goes wrong, you like, what are those guys like? Why did I have them here in the first place? They were useless. But you know what? I mean, you do this very well on this show, and I try and do it in a convention. Ultimately, it's about, in terms of this show, it's about the people listening, and it's about the people you have on. I kind of do it, and it's easy to do with no association. That it's all about the speaker and it's all about the guests.
And it's all about respect, right? I mean, it's the respect. And I really like that in you, and I respect you a lot for it. So there we go. And we're back to 30 seconds, I hate to tell you. So one more.
I hate that 30 seconds.
Yes, that 30 seconds. Off to break we go, and I'll see you on the other side.
You're clear.
Good.
Yeah, do you know, it's really funny. I mean, I'm not going to say any names, but there was a couple in particular. There was a couple in particular last year that weren't my cup of tea. And from a political point of view, I had one there because he was friends with other people. Actually, no, from both the people I'm thinking of, I had them there because of their affiliations with other people and their potential to put bums on seats. Mm-hmm. And one of them, who is a UK guy, he's got a huge ego, and it's so nasty. But no one knows I do this. I read all the feedback afterwards, and it's so refreshing to know that people aren't as stupid as they think they are. Like and some of the comments that this guy got were just brilliant, because the person sitting in the audience was thinking the things that I've thought about before, and they've only been to a convention once, and they're not welcome back, and they wouldn't come back anyway, because the real personalities, the real therapists, sort of made them look all that more insignificant, which is good.
We've got a 9-minute segment coming up.
Yeah,
last minute segment. Do you want to talk about you're a trader, you're making money and all that? What I'm kind of getting
back in 30 seconds, guys.
Why would you go to hypnosis? What can you talk a bit of it?
You already did that though.
But
personally, or as a client?
Personally. Yeah.
Let's go back and
just
it.
Yeah.
So Nick, what's your?
All right, here we go.
.com/Voice America or search for Voice America.
listening to Hypnosis Everywhere, the Simpson Protocol. To reach the show today, please call into 1-866-472-5792. That's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to Inez, that's INES, at InezSimpson.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Well, welcome back to Hypnosis Everywhere, and we've only got a few minutes left. It's always sad to me, but so I'm just going to ask Nick again, we've sort of gone over that about how he was a trader and he was in, the city, all that stuff, and what really brought him to hypnosis, and how does he feel about it today? Was it, how does he feel about this now that he's doing it for so long?
Well, I mean, as I said before, a lot of people who become hypnotherapists have experienced it from the couch side.
Yeah.
And there's something, because you can't put your finger on it, there's something fascinating about hypnosis. And even though I have to, from a professional aspect, use the word less than maybe my peers who are working in more generically with it, there is just still something amazing about just tweaking people's expectations by manipulating people's emotions, that you can change how they talk to themselves, how they talk to others. Whenever there's a shift in emotion, there's different levels of suggestibility, and it happens in relationships, personal relationships, work relationships. And I find that if you study hypnosis to the point that you've got an understanding of it, even if you can't put into words exactly what that understanding is, but from an intuitive and feeling level of using hypnosis, it's an amazingly incredible tool. I mean, when I want to articulate something intelligently, I get on the phone to Adam Eason and I say, what am I trying to say, Adam? And he'll say, Nick, I think you're trying to say this, but no one quite knows what you're trying to say. But it is just I would say it's one of those things. It's different. You can go and train for cognitive therapy, and some coaching modalities are quite good for this as well. But to go and learn hypnosis with an experiential part to it, and a heavy practical part to it as well, from a personal level, even if you never want to go and change the world, you can certainly make your own life better and the people around you better.
And I think that's happened for me the same way, but I still use my own tools pretty well every day. And my life gets better every year. Every year, my life improves. So I'm going to be 65 and getting better. So there we go.
60? I thought you was in your 40s, innit?
Oh, yes, he knows how to charm them, doesn't he?
Yeah. But it is true that you can change how you see it. I mean, I've done full circle on how I see hypnosis and where I think hypnosis is applicable. But it goes into every part and every element of your life. It goes into so many different elements of communication. And I'm not saying I necessarily buy into the whole NLP packaging of what I'm trying to say, but just again, it's that emotions and what's being said and how things are being perceived when emotions are high, and
the awareness you get, because now you're aware and you start to notice that self-talk and that talking into your head and giving that suggestion, and you catch yourself doing that, because we all do it to some degree, and I think that's just that alone. If that was the only thing it did, it would be huge, but it isn't. And luckily for us, it does a heck of a lot more than that.
Yeah, and I mean, the weakness of hypnosis is also its biggest strength as well. So the weakness of hypnosis is that it will be very hard to ever consolidate a profession properly. But apart from around ethics, and even then I'd probably fail abysmally, the way I talk to some of my clients, but apart from a core hub of ethics, what actually hypnosis is would be very hard to consolidate. and so everyone could conform to a certain way.
Yeah.
It would make the Facebook groups a lot more boring as well.
But it would be a sad day, I think, when that happened to one extreme or the other, you know.
Yeah, and I do think it does. Don't get me wrong. I do think it does need consolidating quite dramatically. But the strength of hypnosis as well is in that multifaceted flexibility that it's always happening.
I'm only afraid of losing that flexibility.
But if you've got an imagination and you've got an ability to dissociate and associate at any time, you'll never lose that. As far as
no, but I meant this is a whole other topic, so it doesn't really matter. But
regulation.
It's regulation, being regulated to do something, because it's like you say, it's such a huge topic, hypnosis.
But I mean, it has to have a bit of regulation, because the government organisations aren't going to give it any credibility. It needs the people, and I'm shamelessly plugging in, but the likes of the Adam Easons to present information. Everyone knows the anecdotal wonders of hypnosis, but in a distrustful, money-driven world, to put it into the mainstream, for it to be the first port of call for doctors and psychologists and psychiatrists, this and the other. One, we have to present ourselves as a profession a bit more cohesively and not as fractiously.
Yeah.
And secondly, we do need to have the scientists and the academics championing it a bit more. The problem is those same academics, because other people work on an anecdotal level, obviously come under criticism.
Yeah. And I probably meet you halfway there on that. It's not that I totally disagree with that, but I know I have more doctors or naturopaths, all kinds of different anesthesiologists seem to really get drawn to taking Simpson protocol. And I noticed that they are much more open than we would have been a while back. So yes, I agree that people like Adam Eason, I don't have anything against that. I kind of like the guy, but I think there's a sort of and I don't know how you attain that middle ground. That's the only issue.
But the problem is, I mean, use the analogy of the doctors as the traders, right? The trader comes in and he's not going to be honest with me until he's comfortable with me. Yeah. Doctors on a personal level will refer people to a hypnotist that they trust. But when they're in a room full of their peers...
Yeah, that's true.
And the professor looks over his half-rimmed spectacles and goes, "What do you think about this hypnosis?" They're going to go, until they've got something scientific
that they
can bounce back with. And I'm not dismissing anecdotals.
Okay, I hate to say this, but our show is running down, and I just need to say who's on next week, Martin.
What's her name?
Kaz Riley's on next week.
No. What's the date today? 13th.
Oh,
no, Steen Niels meeting.
I've done it again. No, Kaz isn't until the 27th. No, the 4th of July. Sort of 4th of July, American Church, 4th of July is Kaz. And next week is Steen Niels, Musha, and me.
And what's he supposed to say to that?
I don't know, but we only have 30 seconds left to say goodbye, Nick.
Goodbye. Thanks ever so much for having me. It's been an absolute blast.
Thank you. So next week, come and see the surprise show with Steen Niels. And the week after, don't miss Kaz. And we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
All right, you're clear.
What's her name?
I've never been so confused in my life since I started traveling from one place to the next.
That's the Irish, the Americans, and Kaz Riley, all offended.
And her German trainer, that's it.